Every channel has a car. The one that made you pick up the camera the first time. The one that made strangers on the internet stop scrolling. This is the story of mine. Now, a lot of you have probably noticed that we have recently crossed 100,000 subscribers. And this is a huge milestone. Frankly, when I started this channel, I thought that 10,000 subscribers would be a long-term stretch goal that maybe if we worked really hard we could achieve, and I never expected to be 10 times that amount. I'm so thankful to everybody out there who chooses to spend their time watching our content, and I just gotta say a huge thanks. And with that, let's get into the story of the car that started the channel. Hey guys, my name's Calvin. My dad is a small block Chevy kind of guy, and I've been growing up with those for most of my life. I've always been wanting to get into fuel injection stuff, and so the first logical step was the LS engine, of course. But I've always had a love for six cylinders. This Studebaker Lark, this was my first car, but my first hot rod was a 1964 Nova that had a 250 inline six in it. I was right in the middle of building a supercharger setup for the 250, and unfortunately I got into an accident with the car. It wasn't my fault, but you know, totaled the car, and after that happened I didn't really have a six-cylinder car. And then Mighty Car Mods, they did an episode on the Toyota Cresta, and that was a huge inspiration for this. So yeah, that's basically it. We made 430 horsepower. What I'd like to do in the future is upgrade this to a gold box. You know, get it on full sequential ignition, fuel sequential injection. Yeah, a lot of people were talking about the ticking noise. That's because all six of my injectors are burning at the same time. So they all go tick, 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 tick. And it's at the same speed as the engine. So people think there's a tick in the engine, but no, it's just all the injectors going tick, 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 tick. So, worry not. I'd like to run it down the track here when it warms up. See what this thing will do. Good afternoon, guys. It's a beautiful day in Pennsylvania, and I'm working on the Stude. So, you'll notice I got the gold box in the car, and it's all wired up. I finally worked all the bugs out, so obviously not everything's tidied, but it's at least wired, so give it a start. So I took the car out for a drive on Sunday. And I was having a ball trying to get the tune down on the gold box. I was just not really paying attention to boost, just kind of making global changes to the fuel map, just trying to get it right. And I pulled back into the driveway and actually looked at my logs, and I had 0% duty cycle on my boost controller, but I was seeing 18 pounds of pressure. And it wasn't really creeping or anything like that, but I was like, man, I can't get this stupid boost controller, this darn wastegate. I can't get it to control the boost. Come down here last night with my dad and just kind of talking about how I want to modify it, and he's, I don't know, and I look down and I find this. So there's my boost control problem. So this guy was sitting roughly right there, and a little bit of heat got to it, and what do you know? Sometimes you're like so fixated on something and you just don't realize, hey, the solution's right in front of your face. I want to take this car back to the Grassroots Motorsports Challenge. I've actually already taken the gold box out, and I put my micro squirt back in there, so it's already converted back. I took my Snake Eater Performance 1500cc injectors out, and I found a set of 80-pound injectors on eBay. And they don't flow 80 pounds per hour, they flow like 120 pounds per hour. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, by the end of this video I'm either going to look like a hero or a complete idiot. What I'm hoping we can do today is put the exhaust cam in the spot where it makes the most power and leave it there. My dad has been telling me to do that from the beginning, and I've just been like, I want the best of both. I want low end and high end power, and frankly it makes really good low end power. What we're going to do is we're going to go one tooth at a time, retard the exhaust cam phase, and then see if it makes a difference. That made a huge difference. You hit the throttle and it would just hit a certain RPM and it would just wah! That was wow. We took the car to the racetrack. We wanted to see what my cam timing change on the exhaust did to the horsepower output. And didn't really seem to pick up, like, at all. In fact, it kind of ran worse. I could have the accelerator to the floor and it would just kind of and I could at least move the car, but what we found out was the problem was our timing chain tensioner is very much collapsed. Without further ado, let's get this thing back together and get this thing sorted out.
Sound of the new turbo. It sounds so good. Hear the whistle? Isn't that the best?
Yeah.
It's so much fun. I don't want to get too much into it. I haven't tuned it yet. I can make a little bit of tire smoke though, you know. Just got it running again. Alright guys, so that was a successful voyage to see if this thing is all fixed. I think we got it licked, and I'm super happy to have this car running again. This is probably my favorite car to drive, and it's good to have it functional again. Well, I miss this car. I miss this car a lot. It makes such good noises. There's nothing like it.
Alright guys, so we're at the dyno. Our main goals for today are to track down what the VVT does to the power output of the vehicle. If we could make more than 500 horsepower, I'd be ecstatic. Also, I want to see if this thing will make power over the factory rev limiter. We did retard the intake cam, so that should favor higher RPM power. So without further ado, let's strap this thing down and see what it does.
maybe I just forgot to tighten it.
It did get down to 29 degrees last night. That rubber probably shrunk out a little bit.
Yeah, I think I probably just didn't tighten it. Because that hose I had off and the hose down there I had off. Everything else I didn't touch.
Just giving me an out so you didn't look like a complete dusting.
Yeah, well, I kind of already did that.
We are human. That's just a fact.
4 pounds of boost and made 280. Boost was 4. What was the back pressure? 0.21.
See what happens when
Well,
we turn the boost up.
obviously it's not in its right
Yeah.
spot yet. So as you
Same-
put the compressor in a different part of the map, it's gonna react different. So obviously it's not in a good spot right
Yeah,
there.
we did the same thing on the Nova.
Yep.
It was horrible back pressure, and then we turned the boost up, and it was
Exactly.
happy.
You never know.
Yep.
It may get worse.
Did you?
I don't like your negativity.
All this negativity sucks.
I said could. I said it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I didn't say.
All right.
You know what I mean?
All right.
Yeah, there's a possibility. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So 394 at 10.5 pounds. All right, 70%. That was 18 pounds of boost, and that was boost cut.
Oh, that was
Yeah. What was the boost? 14.7?
Yeah, 22 psi back pressure.
Yeah.
Ain't bad.
Yeah, that converter's starting to struggle.
Yeah, it's still converting that.
Yep.
451 horsepower.
Okay.
More than the Fairmont.
Yep. I'm very happy with the way the car has performed. It's 2 years ago. We had this on the Sloppy Mechanics Dyno. It made 430 horsepower on around 14 pounds of boost. Now it's making 30 more horsepower. Some of you might be like, what did you do? Like, big deal. You know, you're making 30 more horsepower on the same pounds of boost. The difference is the engine responds completely differently. When you lay into the throttle and that converter is barely hanging on, is totally different to how it was a year and a half ago, where it was just kind of, it just kind of, you know. Now it's, you know, it's totally different. Overall, I'm extremely happy with the package. I think we have something here. I think we need to go to the track and figure it out.
There's an unusual one. That's Studebaker.
Studebaker works good.
Uh-oh. Oh my. Oh my. Turbo?
No.
Does it have a hole? Oh, it blew the dipstick hole. Yep, blew the little plug out of the dipstick hole. Yep. Oh, it needs a pipe plug. Yep. Well, we got pipe taps in the thing, and plus I'm sure they do, and we'll get grease. Okay.
Wow. Here's got to be one of your all-time favorites. Studebaker, 6-cylinder with a turbo. I'm not being smart, but those cars are about as good.
That's the quickest it's ever been. Previous best time was a 1094 at 119, I think.
Mustang's getting it figured out earlier. It was bucking and snorting and carrying on. Now it's might just wait for everything to get cleared off up on top. Six-cylinder, yeah. That's big. 1027.
Alright, so we just broke our personal best yet again. It went a 1027 at 127. This is very encouraging because if it can run a 1027 up here at Beaver at altitude, that means at Cecil it can probably run a 9. Guys, today is my birthday, and for my birthday I want to go to the Dyno.
get the training lines off of the wet out of the exhaust, make sure that nothing's coming from there.
What? Why does it smoke so bad, Andy? What? Did it come out of the wastegate again?
Yep, but not as much.
Oh, it ain't sick. He's screwed.
Right there. You blew your first engine, man.
Dude, that thing makes 550 horsepower on 5 cylinders. I guarantee you that pump ain't got much compression in it.
Joe, that could be obvious.
That's about as well soaked as I've ever seen a plug.
There she is.
Alright, so that didn't go quite as expected. For the longest time, my goal with this car was 500 wheel horsepower. And we never really got there with this combo. Well, with our new max feeding rods turbo, we got there. It made 544 horsepower to the wheels at 19 psi of boost, but we hurt the engine. I've been running this thing for around 2 years. I'm pretty sure we've had 6 different turbos on this thing. We've reworked the turbo piping a couple times, changed our wastegate setup, changed our cam setup, put valve springs on it. Just did a whole host of experimentation on this engine. You know, the timing change hopped 3 teeth at one point. It's had a very hard life. Now, some of you are probably going to comment, "Oh, man, you broke the engine on your birthday." Well, you know, that kind of stuff happens. Nothing lasts forever. Even the people that spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on their engines have failures. I paid $100 for this engine. I've abused it. Every time it's been run, it's been wide open throttle with lots of boost being shoved down the ports too.
Alright guys, today we are going to start a new journey with my first car, a 1963 Studebaker Lark. As you can see, it currently has a Vortec 4200, and it was the first time that we used one of these engines in a car, and overall it has been a fantastic journey. I have no complaints with this combo. We had a lot of fun with it, but it's just time to move on to the next thing. This car has always been a rolling science experiment. We've had a 327 in it, a 260 cubic inch small block Chevy, a 6-liter, and now a 4200. It's had a 5-speed in the thing. It's had a turbo 350 and a turbo 400. And I'm sure it will see a vast array of many other combinations in the future. And it's time for the next thing. Alright guys, so we just got the 6-cylinder out and we put in our next engine swap. What you're looking at here is not an LS. This will be our very first LT swapped vehicle. Specifically, this is an L83 out of a Silverado. And the goal with this project is to prove the platform out and to do a budget swap and see what this engine's made of. Will this engine be better than the LS? The only way to find out is to stay tuned. The LS engine is such an excellent package. Whether you want to do something pretty basic or really complicated, chances are somebody's been there, done that, and maybe even wrote a book about it. Also, they're very abundant, affordable, have lots of cheap bolt-ons, and are extremely easy to package. It kind of makes you wonder, where did we come from? And where are we going? Going from a standard set of headers to a set of 180-degree headers could make your American V8 go from sounding like this to this. Alright guys, today we're going to talk all about 180-degree headers. As you can see, I just finished making a set for my 1963 Studebaker Lark, and a lot of you are probably going to be saying, well, hang on a second, I thought you were going to put a turbo onto that. Well, plans have changed, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. So to start off, I wanna take you through why I wanted to do a set of 180-degree headers on this car. And for that, we're gonna go to the whiteboard. So let's start off with why you would even do a set of 180-degree headers. The pros to a 180-degree header setup is the sound, the improved exhaust scavenging, street cred, and it looks cool. The cons to doing a set of 180-degree headers is they are harder to package, they are harder and more expensive to manufacture. They usually will weigh more just because you need more tubing. They are harder to work around, and it is harder to get a shorter primary on the engine for those high revving engines. To me, the sound alone is enough for me to want to do a set of 180 headers, so that's why I chose to go this direction. Now, 180-degree headers are nothing new. In fact, during Le Mans back in the 60s, when Ford beat Ferrari, they actually were using 180-degree headers. Now, if you look on one of those cars, being that it is a rear engine setup, they actually could route the exhaust behind the engine and get a shorter overall primary length. Because of this, you can optimize the header for a higher frequency, or in English, a higher engine RPM, and it will want to make more horsepower. Now, 180-degree headers definitely improve the noise of the engine, but without something else, they still sound like a set of dueling 4 cylinders. And what it needs off of the back of the 2 collectors is a Y pipe. Now, what this Y pipe will do is it will take this nice even frequency, which is going to be identical to a 4-cylinder, and it will sort of take those 2 frequencies and lay them over top of each other and turn it into an 8-cylinder. So just to give you guys proof of this, here is an engine with a set of standard headers. Now with 180-degree headers, but no Y pipe. And finally, the original engine that we played with the standard headers with 180-degree headers and a Y pipe. As you can see, that Y pipe sound, that's what I'm after. The last thing that I want to talk about in this video is sort of the new direction for the Studebaker and sort of the new direction for the channel. As you guys are probably more than aware, we had a pretty serious incident, a little over a month ago. Now, I've said in the past that turbos are awesome. We really love turbos on this YouTube channel, but they can be a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is it is so easy to get carried away. It's so easy to say, just another pound of boost. Just one more pound of boost. Let's throw 5 at it. Yeah, it'll be all right. And then you chuck a connecting rod out the side of the block, and you end up in the situation that we were with the Volvo. I really don't want to do that with this, my first car, a 1963 Studebaker Lark, and I really don't feel like putting the amount of bars into the car that would make me feel comfortable doing that. Not to say we aren't going to add more bars and a better seat to this car, but we're not going to go to the level that the Volvo was. Because of all the reasons that I just talked about, the turbo needs to go. I don't need the temptation. My goal is to make a stick shift 10.00 second car, and I'm really excited to show you what we picked up in the next video in that department. Alright guys, it's been a little bit, but today we're going to give you an update on my 1963 Studebaker Lark. After my struggles with the engine, it was time to get this thing ready for final assembly. Unfortunately, things didn't go very smoothly in that respect. Now, as you guys know, we are mating a TKX 5-speed to the back of this L83, and that was definitely a learning experience that I had to get through. Now, this is hot rodding, guys. This is the way that things go sometimes, and with the way that things currently are in the world, dealing with part shortages and back orders and all that kind of stuff, it's really hard to get projects done in short order when you don't have the parts. And with situations like this, it can be really frustrating, and sometimes it's just best off to drop the car off the jack stands, push it out of the shop, blow all the dirt and dust off of it, and step back and have a look at what you're working on and try to get re-inspired. Don't forget your wheel chalk. Now, I want you to pay attention to this particular moment. This was kind of a big moment for me. What you just saw was uncontrollable laughter. And I haven't experienced that with a car in quite some time. New people to the channel may not know that I came painfully close to losing my dad due to a racing accident that we had earlier this year. And I've had a dozen times since then that I just kept asking myself, why do we do this? And I just wanted to quit. And this was sort of the first time since the accident that I had a moment where it was like, oh yeah, this is why we do this. And it reminded me that despite all of the struggle and the hardship that you can sometimes have with a car, in the end, it's worth it. So I just want to say a big thanks to everybody for following us along on this journey, and I look forward to bringing you guys more exciting content. They say that one of the best ways to find the weakest part of your drivetrain is to install a manual transmission. Last weekend, we went to one of my favorite places on the planet, and that is Beaver Springs Dragway in Beaver, PA. This is the first time that I made a pass since we had the wreck with the Volvo, and needless to say, it was long overdue.
4,000?
Yeah, that's not going to handle it.
Okay.
Well, it should be turning the tires, don't you think?
Yeah, probably.
I guess your little 10 volt's not going to carry the load here, buddy.
Yeah, probably not.
Sorry about your luck. Kaboom! That is a camera shot. Total ductile failure. That's called a clutch dump.
Well, as you can see here, these studs are pretty bent, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were getting close to breaking. So along with fixing the rear, we also need to address our wheel stud situation.
Here's Calvin with Nivlac 57. His YouTube channel. They have some awesome projects. They had the Volvos, and now they got Studebakers. I applaud them on the oddness of the vehicles that they bring in. Very unique. You don't see too many Studebakers racing. The problem is getting into the track at the most opportune moment.
You had it figured out what it was going to make. Because you had figured it out by your track times.
It's within 1 horsepower what we both said it would make at the wheel.
You tell me that shit ain't on the money. Yeah, you told me that before. You said, I remember you saying 330 and literally to the number. That's pretty badass, man. When you can literally go to the track and then come here and be like, I already know what it's gonna make.
It took quite a few pulls where we played around with the fueling, injection timing, variable valve timing, and ignition timing, but eventually we got to an optimal number of 352 horsepower. That was a gain of around 20 wheel horsepower, but what you don't see is the area under the curve. What we actually found is that the engine actually likes a ignition timing ramp with RPM. It actually likes a lower, around 26 degrees, around 5,000 RPMs, and to be ramped to over 30 degrees of ignition timing at higher RPM. Now, my goals for the day were to see quite a bit more of a horsepower gain than just 20 horsepower. And because of that, I am pretty well convinced that this naturally aspirated engine is not going to meet my goals of a 10.00 in the quarter mile. So in the future, we're going to have to look to some other avenues to add a little bit of horsepower. Alright guys, today we are adding more horsepower to my 1963 Studebaker Lark. And we are going to be doing that by installing a LT4 supercharger onto my L83
5.3 liter, which we installed into this car on previous videos. Frankly, I have searched the internet far and wide, and I have not been able to find an example of a supercharged 180-degree header V8. So I am very excited to hear what this thing sounds like. So make sure that you stay tuned and let's find out. Guys, we got the car onto the scales with the supercharger, and our weight is 2973. And notice that our rear bias has dropped to right around 47%. So we lost a little bit of our rear bias since the supercharger is in the front, but our total gain in weight was right around 80 pounds. So I think that 80 pounds will be worth it. But to prove that, let's go to the dyno. Alright guys, overall I am super happy with how this supercharger install went, and I'm super excited to get this thing onto the track and see how much faster it goes. If you guys are in the Gainesville, Florida area, we will actually be there with this car as well as my dad's Pontiac Sunbird for the Grassroots Motorsports Challenge. So if you are interested in seeing either of those cars, or you just want to come and say hi, make sure that you check it out, and we'd love to see as many of you come out and say hi as possible. With that, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Alright guys, we're back home. We just got back from Florida. We were at a race down in Gainesville. On the way home, we were traveling up I-95. Some people came in the night and they stole my truck and my trailer and like one of my most prized possessions, my 1962 Studebaker Lark. I'm sorry this video is not up to our normal standard. Hopefully you can hear me well. And the reason for that is the camera equipment and that kind of stuff that I normally use was, most of it was stolen last night. My truck and trailer was parked right here behind me, here in the Holiday Inn in Florence, South Carolina. And somebody saw that as an opportunity and they stole my truck and my trailer. And we were hauling my 1962 Studebaker Lark, one-of-a-kind build we did on the channel. I'm sorry if I'm not my usual amount of energy. I feel like I've been really just beaten down. This really sucks. We were racing down in Florida and they had the award ceremony and the event sort of ended around 4 p.m. And being from Pennsylvania, we wanted to get home within a reasonable amount of time. So we pretty much left at 4 p.m. and started traveling north. And we figured we would get so far, get a hotel, and travel the rest of the way home on Monday. And we pushed forward and we made it to the hotel on Sunday around midnight on April 7th, 2024. So I pretty quickly went to bed and I woke up to my phone ringing at around 6:20 a.m. to my dad
pretty frantically asking me, "Where did you park your truck?" And I said, "Well, I parked it in the back of the hotel. You know, let me get dressed real quick and I'll come down and we'll find it." So I did that, and I went downstairs and it was gone. The spot where I had parked it, there were 2 other vehicles parked, and you know, it was gone. The most important thing, at least to me, in the trailer was my 1962 Studebaker Lark. This car was my favorite car. My dad and my mom bought it for me when I was 16, and we built the thing, fixed the thing, customized the thing to be one heck of a cool hot rod. And we have so much time into that car. And I'll briefly go over, you know, some of the recent things that we had done. We had just recently installed an Explorer 8.8 with a 33 spline spool and a set of aftermarket axles in the back to basically make the diff bomb-proof. We had just got done converting the transmission setup into a TKX 5-speed. I installed a L83 into the front, and one of the staples of that whole thing was the 180-degree headers that I had built for the car. The last thing that we had done to the car was we had just installed an LT4 supercharger setup onto the top of the engine. We had a lot of time and energy into building that car. The last pass that I made with the car was like one of the best passes I've ever made in the car. We were finally getting the car sorted in, and I'll probably never see it again. But, you know, I have to look at it from a, you know, as good of a perspective as I can. You know, we made it home, nobody's hurt, we're okay. You know, it's just a car. It's, you know, it was a special car to me, but it's just a car.
Alright guys, it's been about a year and a half since my most prized possession has been stolen from me. My 1963 Studebaker Lark. If you guys have been following the channel for a while, you know that my first car was a 63 Studebaker Lark, and we featured that car pretty heavily on this channel throughout the years of, building up our subscriber base. That car was with me since I was 16 years old, and we've done countless combinations on the car, but in April of last year, the car was stolen from me along with my truck and my parents' enclosed trailer. And you guys have shown us a lot of love and support from this whole situation, and for that I'm very thankful. If the thing were to be found, I would go and get the thing right this second in a heartbeat. But I think it's time to move on. There's a reason that I'm standing in front of this car for today's video. If you guys have been following the channel, you know that we are building this 1957 Chevrolet, and this is kind of my dream car. And for me, this will be the replacement for my Studebaker. This car is being built to sort of capture an era in time. I'm taking the best parts of my Studebaker and implementing all of them on this car. Now, I have always been an inline six guy, but I gotta say that the Generation 5 LT series engine in the Studebaker was probably my favorite. It had the best street manners, it had the best packaging that made it easy to work on, and it was overall an excellent combo. The problem with it was it didn't rev high enough. And as we have been getting into these North Star engines more and more heavily, I have made the comment many, many times that if I had the choice of what car I wanted to put the North Star into, it would have been my Studebaker. Unfortunately, that's not possible, so why not put it in its replacement? On my Studebaker, we tried naturally aspirated with that 5.3 liter LT engine, and that was definitely not up to the task. Then we installed a supercharger onto the car, and yeah, that was fun, but my ultimate preference is a turbocharger. I love how the power is delivered, and I love the noises that come from a turbocharger. And we actually almost put a turbocharger on that Gen 5 LT, but I decided not to because it was right after my dad had his really bad wreck, and I was a little bit gun shy from running big horsepower. I've since kind of reconciled with that, and that is why we are going to put a turbocharger on this North Star V8. In fact, the turbocharger that is on this car is the exact turbocharger that I was planning to install on that Gen 5 LT. I am super excited to get this thing onto the track, and I hope it leaves just like my Studebaker did, but we'll have to find out and see. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It's been quite the ride. Now, as sort of a remembrance of the Stude, we have t-shirts available for those who want to remember the memory of the Studebaker. Usually I like to try to end my videos on a high note. Unfortunately, the Stude is still missing, but that 57 Chevy that we've been working on for a while should be up and running later this year, so look forward to that. One last thing that I want to talk about before I end this video is the car community recently lost Kyle Loftus. If you guys aren't familiar with him, he is the owner and creator of 1320 Video. and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. It's really a sad situation, and I just want to say to people that if you're struggling out there, you're not alone. Life is hard. Sometimes it looks like there is no hope left in the world. I've been there quite a few times, and I know this is really easy for somebody else to say, but it will pass. So with that, keep your chin up, guys. With that, I'm going to end this video off here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the hype button, and if you want to support the channel, go buy a Remember the Stude t-shirt. Share the video with your friends if you deem it worthy. All right, see you guys in the next one.